Virginia Plain, a bit of a milestone in the life of my guest, Hugh Cornwell. So what do you remember about that song?
Well, I'd just been in Sweden after graduating from college. I'd been there about a year, and I was just starting to start a band over there. This came out. It was very glam. I mean, you see them on Top of the Pops. They were very glam. But it was pushing barriers, you know, and it was quite out there. It's a landmark track, really, because it came out in an atmosphere of, you know, the early 70s, which was full of disco beat, very straightforward, formulaic things, I think, in the music world, you know, what you could listen to. So suddenly here was something a bit more interesting and a bit more off the wall, you know, so it was I think it was a landmark release, I really do.
But, I mean, they had so much style and such a great sound. For you, in the beginnings of a band, did that encourage you, or did you think, you know, this is going to be harder than I thought?
No, I mean, it was encouraging. Yeah, I didn't particularly want to sound like that because I had my own ideas. But it was encouraging that something unusual could break through. I think that was the important thing about it. That was the encouraging side of it.
Now, one of the early Stranglers songs was Something Better Change. Did you see the punk movement as just a music movement, or were you hoping for it might actually genuinely change things a bit?
Well, I mean, I'd have been a bit naive, I think, I mean, I was 25 by the time the Stranglers got going, so I was a bit long in the tooth to be thinking those sort of, dreaming those sort of dreams. It was a platform for trying to get out ideas, you know, philosophical ideas, but whether any of them would find fertile ground, that was not to be expected.
The Stranglers and Something Better Change, and the man who co-wrote the song is on the line, Hugh Cornwell. The thing I seem to remember, but many things about the Stranglers, but Keith Floyd, I was a bit of a fan of his TV shows, and he used the Stranglers theme tune. He was a big fan, wasn't he?
That's right, yeah. I'd run into Keith in Bristol. He used to appear on a local TV show. I went along to do something there with Jet, our drummer, and ran into Keith. And in fact, we suddenly realised that we went back a long way because he had a chain of restaurants in Bristol when I was studying there, and I used to play guitar and sing, you know, and do a music turn at his restaurants, a lot of them. And he'd have a private party, and he'd invite me along, you know, he'd say, come along and do some music for me. So we suddenly realised we went back a long way. So it was an easy jump for him to select something by us to use for his own standalone, you know, cookery programs.
And what was the gig scene like in the beginning for the Stranglers? Were you playing the pub rock scene or where?
Yeah, it was pub rock. Yeah, it was pub rock the whole time. We were playing the pub rock venues, and that was about 75. And it was about that time that Make Me Come Up and See Me Sometime, Make Me Smile came out, Cockney Rebel. That was doubly encouraging because suddenly here was something again a bit different breaking through. I remember this, it got a lot of airplay. It got huge amounts of airplay, this song. Am I right? I think it did. And it's like you heard it everywhere. I was surprised it didn't get to higher than it did in the charts. And I really liked it as a song. And I was very disappointed that the Cockney Rebel couldn't go on and, you know, capitalise on their success from that song. But it really is a signature of that time for me when we first started and we're out in the ice cream van playing around, you know, working men's clubs and pub rock venues, working men's clubs a lot as well out in the countryside.
Who was it who had all the ice cream vans?
Well, it belonged to Jet Black, the drummer. He had a business, an ice cream business, and an off-licence. The off-licence went when we started playing regularly, and then the ice cream business went. But he kept the ice cream van, and it served as our transport for quite a while.
Great way to turn up to a gig. Come Up and See Me, Make Me Smile, or Make Me Smile, Come Up and See Me. It's constantly on the radio, and Steve Harley, who's never stopped playing live and making new music, describes it as his pension when he gets around to playing it. So here it is again. Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel and Make Me Smile, Come Up and See Me, chosen by my guest on Sounds of the 70s this afternoon, Hugh Cornwell. So you got something new happening.
I have indeed, yeah. I mean, lockdown was very good to me. It confined me to one place, and I started working on a new album, and it went down very, very nicely. So I've got a lot to thank for lockdown. I'm not sure if it could have turned out as well if it hadn't have been done in those circumstances. Called Moments of Madness, and I'm going to be going out touring it in the UK throughout November. Well,
good luck with all of that.
Thank you.
And just going back to the Stranglers, any memorable gigs? I mean, I suppose there was loads.
Yeah, there's absolutely loads. I mean, there were so many magic moments, on stage, and I'll keep those memories with me for a long time.
Good. Well, how about leaving us with a record by someone other than the Stranglers?
There you go. Ian Dury was running concurrently with as Kilburn and the High Roads when the Stranglers first started playing in London. And I remember driving past the Hope and Anchor one night, and it said Kilburn and the High Roads playing tonight. And it was after we were coming back from one of our awful little gigs in the countryside, and they were, you could see them loading their gear out. We were, musing, one day we'll play there, and joking about it. And then in 1977, of course, in August 1977, Ian released Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll, which didn't really do that well, but it again was it was a breakthrough. It was a breakthrough of something alternative coming through, and was highly acclaimed. And I got a lot of respect for Ian and what he achieved. Fabulous production by Laurie Latham, who I've worked with on many occasions. He did the whole of that first album. Just sounds great, even today. It's a great sounding record.
Certainly is. Well, Hugh, all the very best with the album Moments of Madness and the tour. And thanks for being on this afternoon.
Thanks, Johnny. Nice to talk to you.
All the best.